Hey everybody, welcome back to TechOdyssey. So this is a follow-up video from my rant about the Samsung Galaxy Tab S7 FE edition that I released yesterday, otherwise known as the FU edition. And I found out something since yesterday when I recorded that video that is very troublesome to me, and it actually has to do with a really big part of this tablet, which is the processor, and Samsung not being upfront with everybody, letting you know that one of them is actually better than the other one. I didn't realize this yesterday. Somebody brought it to my attention in the comments. They thought it was a different processor. I did some investigative research and I discovered, yes, indeed, there are two different processors inside of the Tab S7 FE 5G and the Wi-Fi model, and which one has the better one will actually really surprise you. And we're going to talk about it. But before we get into that, I do want to say if this is your first time stopping by the channel, thank you for being here. If you enjoy the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. Let's talk about the Samsung Galaxy Tab S7 FE FU shenanigans. Okay, we talked about this yesterday. The Tab S7 FE has the Snapdragon 750G in it. At face value, a very good processor. Kind of weird how they did it this year. It's actually interesting because I was looking at the differences between the processors because this is kind of like the successor or like the version they're using instead of the 765 this year. It actually has two primary cores in it, which is kind of weird. Most chips only have one primary core. This one has two. So, what's the big deal here? Well, I was alerted in the comments by a viewer telling me that they thought that the Tab S7 FE Wi-Fi edition might actually have a different chipset. So, I went to the Googles, I did some research, there actually is a difference. So, I found out the Tab S7 FE Wi-Fi edition actually has the SM7325 chip. That's very important. Why? Because they don't actually say what it is. And this is also very funny. When you look at the Samsung website and you go down to compare the models, one, they don't do a comparison between the 7 FE 5G and the 7 FE Wi-Fi edition. They just show that it has the they just show down there, they show against the Tab S7, the S7 Plus, and the S7 FE. And it says that there's the SD 865 Plus in the 7, the SD 865 Plus in the 7 Plus, and then it shows the SM7325 for the Samsung Galaxy S7 FE edition. God, that was hard to say. So, the Wi-Fi edition has the S7325. And what is that? Well, I did some more investigative journalism, and it is the Snapdragon 778, which was just released in May of this year, versus the SM7225, which I only saw listed one place, is in the 5G edition. So you're getting a processor from September of last year in the 5G edition that they're charging you more money for. And there's actually some more funny stuff about this. This is really interesting, Samsung, so thank you for giving me this information. So, the 750G came out in September of last year. It is about 20% slower on the single core speed and about 40% slower on the multi-core speed than the Snapdragon 778, which is in the Wi-Fi edition, that they charge you less money for. How do you like them apples? In addition to that, though, the 778 actually has a 5G modem in it. Does the Wi-Fi model have 5G? No, it doesn't, because it's disabled. So, not only are they selling you an inferior chipset in the 5G model that they're charging you an extra $140 for, mind you, that they're selling first, so people will want to go out and buy it, of course. They're not actually outlining the fact that it actually has a worse chipset in it. They're not even telling you it really has a different chipset. If you go to the Samsung comparison, you can't even find out it has a different chipset. But when you look even further, the S7 FE Wi-Fi edition is 40% faster on the multi-core speed, and it is 20% faster on the straightaway primary core. That is just mind-blowing to me how they've managed to do this. And I can almost guarantee that it has to do with this overall chip shortage issue. That's why they released it internationally, and then they brought out this one, the 5G edition. They're selling it a month earlier and giving you an inferior chipset and charging you an extra $140. Who does that? Like, what kind of a company that has scruples does something like that? I have never heard of something like this in my life. Now, I have heard of Samsung will give you an Exynos chip overseas, and then they'll give you a Snapdragon here for the phones, or even this last year with the Tab S6 Lite, they gave us an Exynos processor, which most people were happy with. It does a good job for the price. It's not that it's an Exynos. It's not that it's a 750G. It's not that it's a 778. It's the fact that the way they've done this is they sell you the one that most people want up front. They charge you more money. They give you an inferior, older, outdated processor. And then a month later, they don't tell you that the new Wi-Fi one costs less and has more power. Like significantly more power. Like when you look at the year-over-year chipset, if you look at the 865 to the 865 Plus this last year, it was about 10-15%. And that was about 20% over the 855 Plus before that. So usually with the flagship processor, you get about 10 to 15% extra boost, every iteration that comes out. This one, 20% difference, actually I think about 18, but then 40% on the multicore, which is actually about 43%. So it's just mind-boggling to me that they've done this and that it's not really been picked up anywhere. I've not heard anybody talk about this. Now, I think I've only seen one other person's video on the internet. I did some research to figure out what was in it and to talk about it, but this was not something that anyone's making a big deal about, and it's just mind-boggling to me how Samsung has done this, and then they call it the FE edition. It's just like, okay, so we're going to call this the Fan edition, but we're going to rip you off. We're going to put two different chips in there. We're going to sell the more expensive one with a lesser, inferior quality product first. Then we're going to give you the better one, more cheaper, a month later. And we're going to disable the 5G modem. Why not just put the 778 in both of them, which would have been a better deal, by the way, because it is a better processor. It's newer. If you look at the architecture, it's got updated architecture. It's got a smaller processor. Nanometer-wise, the 750G is a 8 nanometer processor. The 778 is a 6 nanometer, which means that you're going to get a much better power efficiency ratio. You're going to get better battery life because it has to use less electricity. So in addition to the better speed, you're getting better battery life as well. It also supports Bluetooth 5.2 instead of 5.1. It actually has a higher primary clock speed, by the way, because the 750G has a 2.2 gigahertz core. The 778 has a 2.4. And then here's the other thing. When you get down to the other cores, they're even messed up too. They're different. You get 6 lower cores, I believe, on the 750G, but you only get 4 lower cores on the 778. Why? Because you get 3 mid-tier cores. Let me double check this so I'm telling you right. Yeah, that's what you get. So with the 778, you get one 2.4 gigahertz core, you get 3 2.2 gigahertz cores, and you get 4 1.9s. And then on the 750, you get 2 2.2s for your primary core setup, and then 6 1.8s. So I couldn't make this stuff up if I tried. I don't know who over at Samsung made this decision. I don't know who decided to go ahead and do this, but I think that it's wrong. And that they should very, very plainly disclose this, and it should be reflected in the price. And also, if you've got a 5G modem in the Wi-Fi edition, why not just enable it so that everyone can have 5G? So it's here, we want you to only buy this one for 5G, but it's inferior and it costs more money. It's got an older chipset, but here we're going to sell you the better chipset that actually is 5G capable in the next, the Wi-Fi model that comes out a month later, and then we're just not going to enable it. We're not going to tell you about it. I don't know. This whole thing just irks me, but I was looking at it, I'm like, how has this even happened? How did Samsung do this? How has this not really been talked about? And how do they think they get away with this? I don't know. I'm going to end the rant here before my blood pressure's through the roof. But just talking about this, I'd already made the video saying, okay, it's inferior to the 7 and the 7 Plus, but it costs almost the same amount of money. They're charging you too much money. It's just not a good product for the price. It's like a $399 tablet, maybe $449 at best, but $529 and then $669. And then the Tab S7 is actually cheaper than the Tab S7 5G, FE 5G. It's just not a good deal. So that was already problematic. And then it's the shenanigans, and it looks like they're active, trying to hide this and not let people know that there's a big difference between these two products. So okay. All right. I've had enough. That is it for this rant. Still, again, yes, definitely the Tab S7 FU edition, and it's like a double-handed. The fact that they call this a fan edition to me is probably one of the most insulting things, because how could you do something like this to your fans who actually care and want to buy your products, right? I don't know. So that's all I've got. If you want to talk about this in the comment section, please feel free to go there. We'll talk about it. We'll have a discussion, a conversation. If you enjoy the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. But very, very troubling stuff going on here, at least to me. I don't know. Maybe if this works its way out in the rest of the community, other people will talk about it, but I don't know. Just really not getting warm fuzzies about it. So that's all I got, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.